Good morning. Welcome to Metal Scraps. Happy New Year. Today we are happy to be with one of the gurus of silversmithing and tools and cabochons. And welcome, Chris, to Metal Scraps.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
I'm going to segue today's show to give you a little bit more of an awesome introduction.
Thanks, Irene. Hi, I'm Daisha from Little Crown Benchmade. Who better to kick off the new year than our guest, Chris from Lion Punch Forge, who personifies the word new. He is a metalsmith, rockhound, lapidary artist, family man, and an amazing tool designer and innovator. His LPFG adapter makes mechanized engraving affordable and accessible at a fraction of a fraction. He has improved upon an essential bench tool with the Haymaker saw frame. Both of these tools are manufactured and sold by Pepe Tools. Chris is also a problem solver. He makes small batches of unique tools that were born out of frustration where traditional tools fell short, filling a void with his lion claw holder for soldering and his new tight space bezel pusher, to name a couple. I found Chris's Instagram when Pepe Tools was teasing the LPFG adapter. I was impressed that he had just invented this tool and was practicing with it right along with us. Chris is always creating and innovating, and I'm sure I have commented on more than one of his posts with the words, "Do you ever sleep?" We're excited to talk with him about all of the new things he has in the works for 2022. Thanks for joining us today, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
So, Chris, today we were just thinking of you cover so much gamut of silversmithing and tools, and I think you name it, you do it. So today I think we kind of want you to share with everybody what's new with Lion Patch Forge and what's new with you, what's up and coming for the 2022.
Well, a lot of TV probably. So 2022 is, in my mind, is slated to be kind of awesome. I'm going to be launching. So I had a Lion's Claw original, and it was a non-adjustable. It had a titanium tip that was pressed into a piece of aluminum, and then it looked just like the claw. But that the tip broke off and this and that, and I have really no desire to make disposable tools. So I discontinued that tool, and then I put it back in redesign. So the Lions, what is going to be dubbed the Lion's Claw Silver, will be probably coming out this year as soon as I can get some time to head down and maybe do some work in the shop and do some prototyping. Right now, conceptually, it's going to be a smaller version, and it's going to be all stainless steel. So it'll fit on little soldering blocks and that kind of stuff, and it'll still have the adjustable weights and maybe some other special stuff too. So never stop thinking, never trying to solve problems. So that's coming. I think, and they couldn't find one that would match the circumference of the bull nose of their counter that they were using. And I'm like, I'll make one. So she has it now, and it fits perfectly on her counter. But I presume that as soon as she starts posting pictures of it, people are going to say, I want one. So I'm looking at the probably future of maybe making more bench pins. But the beauty of it is that it's not so much the bench pin itself as it is a system. So it accepts the GRS dovetail plates that you put on. A lot of people use them. I wasn't really a fan until I actually tried one, and then I'm like, okay, this is cool. So the the bench plate itself, all that kind of stuff. But I have some plans on maybe the ability to mount a mandrel onto it so that you can have it mounted somewhere and hammer. Because one of the not frustrating, but things I see people kind of struggling with sometimes is bracing your mandrel, putting your ring on, and bracing it and hammering it. So kind of think of it as an extra hand for your mandrel. So that's kind of what I have maybe envisioned for some stuff there. Sky's the limit when it comes to that. So I expect that may be something I start producing more of this year. Honestly, the best ideas come from you guys. So the tight space setting tool, which allows you to get in between elements of, say you're doing a pendant and you have a flower element and it's hard to get your bezel pusher in there to try and push your bezel over your stone once your element's there. And you don't want to solder in your element after you set your stone. So what I came up with was a curved tool that will fit down in and then allow you to burnish over the stone because of that curve. That idea was kind of spawned by another metalsmith in Hawaii. And she said, I have a hard time doing this. Can you make a tool that will set stones close to elements? I'm like, I don't know. Let's do it. I actually have one here. I have a variation of that here. So this is kind of the variation of it, where you have the scoop that goes down onto your stone and then allows you to kind of roll it over. Now, when I made it, I didn't intend for it to be, but the for actually uses it more often this way to create leverage than she does this way. But just like with any tool, the more you use it, the more you kind of adapt it and see how it works. This tool is actually called an acre, which is a mythology. It's a double-headed lion. So there's one tool on one side and then like a nice rounded off either stake or steel burnisher on the other side. So it fits nice in your hand, allows you to do work. If you really wanted to, you could strike that side with a rawhide mallet. Sky's the limit when it comes. I really, really welcome people to explore their tools. Just because it's used for one particular purpose doesn't necessarily mean that it can only be used for that. So
and you have those available on your website, right, Chris?
On my website, npunchforge.com. So there's these available. There's the other one, the tight space setting tool, which what I really like to do, and I think I have one here. Hang on.
Deja, which one did I show you that I was looking at? Was that the tight space or was that the one?
Yeah, I thought it had a handle on it and it was smaller.
Like this?
Yes.
So this one is a bezel rocker.
Okay.
So what I end up doing is I love antique stores. I love vintage stuff. I love to renew and reuse. And I had a whole bunch of these drawer pulls that I'm like, I want them, but I don't know what to do with them. So when I started kind of getting into this, I'm like, I could use those as handles.
That's a good idea.
The nice part is that most of them are pretty rounded and they do fit into your palm. And as you can see without me trying to let it drop, let me grab a here. So when I have this set in my hand, the handle is in line with my bone structure. So what I'm doing when I'm pushing is I'm using the bone structure and muscles in my body to push versus another kind of rocker with a big handle on it where I'm trying to like do this or do this. I'm pushing up through my hand with those ones, whereas my tools, you get your bone structure behind it. So you get more power, you get less fatigue, more comfortable, and they're all hand forged. So I forge all of these by hand. This starts off as a brass bar, and then I actually forge that shape into it. The tight space setting tools, all of these guys start off as round bar, and I forge that shape into it. So Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I've got brass pushers where they're just a round bar that goes to a square end that's been forged square, and then same thing. I'll drill. I do all my own manufacturing on these. So I put it in a lathe and I drill my hole and I thread my hole and just manufacture a bunch of these at once. And then when they're ordered, I assemble them and ship them out. So a little bit of everything. I have a couple soldering tools. I've got my Angry Hedgehog. That's probably my favorite soldering pick. So with other soldering picks, they're nice and light, right?
Mhm.
And if you're doing a lot of soldering, sometimes they heat up.
Right.
What I ended up doing was taking the handle, and most more times than not, they'll use like aluminum for a handle for, or a wood for a handle for a solder pick, kind of adding something more just flammable to an already flammable situation. So wood handled soldering tools aren't necessarily my favorite, just because, I can set stuff on fire. It's happened before. And then aluminum is a great heat conductor, so it conducts heat. Was creating the handles out of a tool steel and forging them, and then using a titanium rod as the tip. And then I would braze the titanium rod to the solder pick, to the steel part, so that it had this like beautiful gold bronze brazing down the solder pick, and it's nice, heavy, and it's substantial. It's surprisingly well balanced as well. So just little things like that. I find I have probably more so I have a lot of stuff that I just kind of have sitting around. I've done so much as far as I made a gemstone milling machine when I wanted to start doing like some concave cutting on gemstones. And I didn't want to buy and couldn't find, because nobody makes one, a milling machine for gemstones. So I put together a bunch of stuff and did some engineering and drawing and came up with one. And then, yeah, just kind of it goes.
I do love
That's
that.
awesome, Chris. And you,
Go ahead, Deja.
oh, I was just gonna say, Chris, you've been also acquiring tools and refurbishing them as well.
Yeah, I have a deep love for old things, old tools, previous lives, the history behind how they were, used to their life, and when I get them. So what I have been doing is buying old jewelry tools and either refurbishing them by cleaning them up and oiling them, or in some cases actually manufacturing new parts to replace old parts, and then selling those at a discounted rate. Obviously a little bit more than I bought it for, but I try and find the cheapest I can so that I can make a slight profit, but still give somebody a used tool that is still probably less than they would pay if they'd bought a brand new one.
Right. Well, I was showing Deja yesterday. One of my favorite of the tools that you just showed is the tools for the tight spaces.
Yes.
Because I've always wondered, I know people have, elements and they have something on top of the stone. And I'm like, how the hell do they get in there? Because I can't get in there, So that tool is definitely going to be a plus.
Methods too. I mean,
Yeah.
mine is just another option.
Right.
There's sometimes there's this belief that that you buy one thing, it's your magic bullet, and it's not it. You have to have a tool bag of different tricks and stuff like that to be able to work in different operations.
Right.
You may have a favorite hammer, but that favorite hammer may not be able to set a stone for you. So you have to, I think, in a way, smartly buy tools that you think that are going to make your work go faster or make your work go easier. So yeah, that's kind of what I do. Is I like looking at what's available, I like looking at old tool catalogs, because if you look at a jewelry tool catalog from 30 years ago, you're going to see a log today. And I ask why, because, you know, we evolve and we change with our craft, and why not improve upon and create new things? And that's kind of where the line punch forge engraving adapter, the LPFG, came in, and the haymaker saw. Is that, you know, we all have jewelry saws. It's the heart and soul of our jewelry bench, right? We saw stuff whether we like it or not. And when it came down to it, there's all these awesome options out there for saws. Some work really well, others are meh. And there's the tried and true German saw frame. I'm not going to knock the Green Lion. The Green Lion is a very iconic looking jewelry saw. But there are things that I saw with that design that I'm like, I think I can improve upon that, which is kind of, that's my grandfather speaking inside my head, because every time I bring to him like something I'd make or something like that, and he goes, meh, I could improve.
Well, we have some questions for you from some followers.
Okay.
One of them is from Sterling Perch.
Mhm.
She asked, or he asked, what were your first steps to start manufacturing your tools?
Liz with Sterling Perch. So Liz, I guess the answer to that question is we do this thing when we're kids. We play, right? And sometimes we grow up and we stop playing. And sometimes we grow up and we really grow up. I guess the most important thing I could think of when it came to that is that I truly believe that as kids, it's through our play that we learn to live. So if you play a certain way, you're teaching yourself to live a certain way. So I was always taught that. I grew up on a modest home. We had about an acre of land, and we had a small farm. And I could remember my mom always farming. My mom still raises vegetables. My dad and my mom would both raise animals. Those animals would then become either food or sustenance for other things, you know, whether it's chickens and eggs or turkey or cows or goats or sheep or whatever. We were always doing the things that you see a lot of people just go out and buy now. So when it came to needing a barn, we didn't pay to make a barn. We built a barn. When it came to fixing something, we fixed it. Same thing with my grandfather. He was an experimental machinist, and a lot of the things that I learned from him then influence my ability to understand how things work. And then it just kind of, it grows from there. So the first thing that I go through is realizing there's a problem. And once you have a problem or like an idea, there's a quote by, I think it's Les Brown. He's a motivational speaker. And he says that the wealthiest place on earth is the graveyard, because people die with their ideas. They die with their dreams. They die with their aspirations. And the wealthiest place on earth is therefore the graveyard. And he asks people to think about that and think about all those. Think about that and think about how you want to live your life. I would rather not hear myself say one of these days I'm going to, and just hear myself say, all right, we're doing this. We're going live. So when it comes down to it, the way you get started is by taking that first step. Taking, you know, if you have an idea, if you have something that you believe in it. Don't just go, oh, that's a great idea, and then never do anything about it. The same thing with a jewelry design. I don't think I have it up here. I'll keep looking while I'm talking, but I have, do you saw my 2-finger ring that I was working on still? It's this very complex 2-finger ring with tourmaline and faceted stones. I took a week-long course with Emily Marquis. And when I came back from that, I'm like, I want to make a 2-finger ring using hollow forms. And so I ordered the material and I just did it.
Mhm.
And the funny thing was is that they're like, oh, that's amazing. How did you solder it together? And I'm like, well, I just explained it. And then I held up the torch that I used to buy because I was too lazy to go out buy more acetylene. So I used a plumber's torch for the entire thing. And they're like, how does that even possible? I'm like, patience, believe in yourself, and heat control, and a lot of luck. So I guess my advice is how do I get started? I get started by not saying one day. I get started by saying today, or this is happening, or how do I start planning this?
Right.
What are my first steps? You know, because that first step is, how do you climb a mountain? You don't go, I'm at the top. It's a one step at a time. It's sometimes you slide, sometimes you fall, but you
Mhm.
keep going. You have something you believe in, then believe in it.
Awesome. And yeah, the key is starting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I mean, that's a very, I guess, theological way to think about it.
Right.
But, you know, that's where everything starts. I can physically act upon something, but if I'm not right up here, if I don't have the right mindset for something, then none of those other things even matter, because my mind's gonna talk me out of it later on.
It's a lot
So,
of self-readiness.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess the one thing I could say as advice for that, for anyone who goes, well, I could, but I'm not this and I can't do that, is that I have imposter syndrome all the time. I don't think that I can do these things. But then I remind myself that that's that little part of my brain that's trying to like drag me back down into a bucket. And it's not the kind of brain that I want to have, you know, define me. So everyone can have their opinions, but don't let everyone's opinions, whether it's haters or lovers, don't let people's opinions define you. You make the own definition of yourself. So if you believe in yourself and you keep believing in yourself, you're going to find yourself in some happy places.
Yeah. I believe
Awesome.
that. Good advice. Good advice. On to the
I read
next
that
question.
on my script.
Yes. Next question, Deja.
Yeah, so this
think we have
question's
time
from
for that one, yeah.
Charity of Ghost Town. What she has all kinds of heavy on the metal, Pacific Crest Creatives, Ghost Town Fine Jewelry, I think that's her other one. Ghost Town Metalworks Gets Fit. So all those things, that's what Charity is involved in. And Chris and I are both at the gallery at Pacific Crest Creatives. So I know Chris has spent a lot of time, he's done rock hounding trips up there with Charity. So Charity asks, how did you get into the industry originally? And how long have you been in it overall?
So I've always been creative in the sense that I wanted to make stuff. Originally, it started off with music. And so in 5th grade, I'm like, I want to try out for band. And so I tried out for band, and they had this thing where you sit around a circle based on where he thinks you should start, whether it's woodwind or brass or percussion or whatever. So doing this, and every student does their thing, and then they sit down and have a meeting with the teacher. And I sat down after trying everything. I did the cowbell, went crazy on the cowbell, and sat down with him, and he scratches his beard and he goes, Chris, have you thought about wood shop? So a little bit harsh for a 5th grader, maybe, but it pushed me into probably where I needed to be, because I couldn't read music and I just wanted to make noise. So it turns out table saws and lathes and all those things that make noise. So I spent my early kind of furniture all the way up until I bought my first house, and then I built some of my own furniture for my first house. During that time, I actually spent 20 years in law enforcement. So I retired in 2020 and just said, screw it, I'm running my own business. And so, yeah, I'm running my own business. In the meantime, though, I skipped a big period in between. In the meantime, after I'd been in woodworking, my brother was big into welding and metal fabrication and all that. And him and I'd sit around and talk, and like, we should learn to blacksmith. Like, yeah, it's a great idea. We should do that. So we were searching around Craigslist, and we found a blacksmith shop for sale on the coast, and drove a U-Haul truck down there, bought the entire shop, drove it back, and set it up and started making scrap metal almost the same day. Making metal means that I'm not very good at it at this point. It's bending stuff and hitting it with a hammer and going, cool, throw it over your shoulder, do something else. And the first forge that we used was coal. So there's this other intricacy to running a coal-fired forge versus a gas forge. It was dirty, it was nasty, and it was an amazing learning experience. I sold quite a few knives while I was doing that, because mostly what I was doing was knives and tools and architectural type things. And ultimately that paved its way to being able to confident and manipulating steel to make tools and heat treating and how metal moves, because how steel moves is the same way that brass and copper and silver and gold move when you forge it. It's just about learning how that metal moves. And since steel was so much harder to move, it allowed me, I think, time to slow down and go, okay, this is how I can fan metal out. And this is how I can get it to bend one way by hammering the other way. And eventually that led into teaching myself how to weld. My brother helped me with that. And then I remembered that at an early age, I loved rocks. So I started doing lapidary. I taught myself how to cab and how to facet gemstones. A lot of the time it was me going out and finding my own material, hunting it down. I went so OCD that I was mineral tracking old mineral maps for Washington State, and I'd see where all these mines were, and then I'd figure out what minerals needed to make what in order to find this and that. And then I'd plot on a map where I'd go, and then I go and I drive and I walk out in the woods and just look. So, and then I plot on my map what I found where and all this. And then slowly I've been able to track a particular raw tributary stream that it came from. So, it's fun being able to do this. It's like a little mystery. And I learned, because I remembered that I loved rocks and gems, that, I'm going to stop saying one of these days I'm going to start cutting stones, and I'm going to say, let's start doing it. How do we move forward? What's the first step? Mm-hmm. So that obviously cutting nice stones lended itself to making jewelry. But originally I got into jewelry because I wanted to make my knives and tools more intricate. And it looks like we've got about 10 minutes left.
Yes.
So it looks,
you see
I want
that.
to make my knives and tools. I do, yeah. Looks like we got about, I already said that. Making I fell in love with it and started doing majority that. So that's kind of where that set in. I will touch on kind of what's coming next, because I'm in the middle of talking, and I'll just let it fly out because I like to talk fast. This year, hopefully, I'm going to launch Metalsmith Mafia, which is going to be a community first, community over competition. And then I'm hoping to take my gemstone and stone sales from Lion Punch Forge and move all gemstone sales to Metalsmith Mafia and just have Lion Punch Forge tools. So I'm working on maybe procuring a large collection or warehouse of old stock gemstones I've been collecting for a long time. I do sell. I've got a closet over here full of full of awesome beads and stuff and all that kind of cool. So it's slowly updating my website, getting people aware of what I'm doing and what I have and what can be purchased. But I like old stock stuff. So I don't spend a whole lot of time cutting new stuff anymore unless it's a custom order. But I like old things. And I think that the things that are already cut and made should be, taken advantage of and not just left to rot in a warehouse.
Sounds great. It seems like you're going to have a busy 2022.
No sleep.
Yeah.
I forgot. I'm gonna be in Tucson too. So I'm going to Tucson in a couple weeks.
Nice.
I'm gonna be at the True Blue Bead Show at Casino Del Rey. And I'm gonna be doing probably have some of my own tools there, but I'm primarily there as a salesperson for Pepe Tools.
Oh,
So I'll
okay.
be down there for a little over a week.
Nice.
So if anyone is going to Tucson in a couple of weeks, say hi to Chris.
What's that?
I said if anybody's going to be in Tucson in a couple of weeks, say hi to Chris. He's going to
Oh.
be with
Yeah.
Pepe Tools. Yes.
Pepe Tools, True Blue Bead Show at the Casino del Sol.
Sounds good. And also definitely check out his YouTube channel. You want to say what YouTube channel that is, Chris?
If you go to YouTube and type in Lion Punch Forge, you'll find me. And then my actual website is lionpunchforge.com. And I also have metalsmithmafia.com. But if you go to that one right now, it says something's coming soon and it's not here yet. So
Sounds good. Deja, you want to add anything else?
I do. I'm so excited for you, Chris, and I want to let everybody know that, Chris, you are such a you're so generous with everything you know, and you're always so helpful. You've helped me with broken tools, broken stones, and all that stuff. And you guys got to check out his newest collection of old stock gems. There's some beautiful moonstones that I have on my wish list and some other amazing stones that are really hard to come by. And those are things that I really like the approach of getting that stock and putting it out there so that we're not mining and digging when there's already these resources available to us. So
Yep.
That's awesome. And I also have to share my solder pick.
you got
I
one,
have
don't
the
you?
junky ones with the wooden handle, and this is
I
blue
have
masking tape handle.
Oh dear. We're gonna have to make you an angry hedgehog.
Yeah.
my solder pick is nasty. And I can't even tell you, I still use my copper tongs, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's all melted and it's all gone, and I'm still
Well,
using
I view tools like this. We make beautiful things, and you don't need, if you look at other countries, third world countries that make beautiful jewelry, a lot of their tools aren't super fantastic.
right.
But what we do is like a labor of love. So why shouldn't we have beautiful tools too?
This is so true. I'm gonna upgrade with some of mine.
All right. You know where to find me.
Well, Chris, anything else, Deja?
I just want to say thank you for joining us, Chris, and looking forward to seeing what you have coming up this year.
Yeah, I'll pull something out of the hat. See what happens.
And thank you everyone for joining us in Metal Scraps. If you are not following Chris, you're missing out. So you better go on his page and click on follow and check out all of his work. Amazing, amazing stuff.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Pleasure being here.
Same here. We're glad to have you, and thank you for spending the time with us and getting us in your busy calendar.
But I'll go ahead and right now it's not that busy.
It will be. After this,
It will be.
busy. All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye.